Okay, so last time we spoke about how Yetzias Mitzrayim was that's how this whole mimer got started. There's this pasuk, there's this verse in the prophet Micah that says Kiyimei Tzescha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Eren Niflois. So just like the days of you coming out of Egypt, I will show you wonders, and this is referring to the final redemption. Okay, so the first question the Rebbe asks is why when discussing the final redemption does it, and the wonders of the final redemption, does it hearken back to Yetzias Mitzrayim and those wonders, because those wonders will be on a substantially lower level. The final redemption will be on a level that will not even be like connected to the level of Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's going to be on a so much greater, higher, forever level that why would you even reference Yetzias Mitzrayim when talking and the wonders of Yetzias Mitzrayim when discussing the final redemption? It's like it's diminishing the what's going to be at the final redemption.
It's the closest.
Yeah, it's the closest we got. Well, yeah, but it should say nothing like when you went out of Mitzrayim will be the final redemption. Not just like.
Did he say that?
Well, that the pasuk says just like when the days of your coming out of Mitzrayim, so too I'll show you. What do you mean just like? Say not just like.
Aspects of it could be.
Say
just
not like. It'll be so much greater than Kiyimei Tzescha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. That's it. You're out. You're gone. That's it. I lost you already.
No, but aspects of it. It happens suddenly out of Egypt. It could happen. It will happen suddenly in the final redemption. That's just like leaving Egypt.
Okay, so the question is,
but the just like is without the details. Just like the miracles that happened to cause us to get us out of Egypt. There will also be incredible, just like that was an incredible miracle, just like that incredible miracle, so won't the final redemption be also an incredible miracle?
I think that's the simple understanding. I think that the way you explained it, I think, is the simple understanding, and that's where the kasha is. That's why there's a difficulty, because this should not be juxtaposing the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim to the final redemption. The miracles of the final redemption are going to be on a qualitatively completely different level, and therefore it's a diminishment of the miracles that will happen at the final redemption. To say just like the great miracles that when we came out of Egypt, so too there'll be great miracles on a completely different scale at the final redemption. It doesn't work. It doesn't go.
That's for me.
Okay. So it doesn't go for the Rebbe. It's a kasha. The Rebbe asked the kasha. That's in fact the first kasha that the entire mimer opens up with. Okay? And so now we're coming to answer that question. Okay? So I hope it is a question in it's some part of somebody's mind that why would the Torah make a parallel between the level of miracles that happened by Yetzias Mitzrayim to those of the final redemption, when the miracles of the final redemption will be on a completely different scale, on a wholly different scale. Okay? Why? Why would it relate the two?
It's on a different scale. The final redemption, when we got out of Egypt, that was the miracle of all miracles. The sea opened, the people, the others drowned. Yeah. That was an incredible miracle.
Right, there were incredible miracles, but the miracles were on the level. No,
there weren't that many of those kind of incredible miracles.
Well, okay, those were obviously
the burning bush wasn't surrounded by the children of Israel.
So you're saying the witnessing,
people,
right?
Couple of
so
people
you see the amount of people, but the miracle still broke nature. It broke nature. And so when something breaks nature, that means that it doesn't really show Hashem's power fully. Okay? The reason this is a kasha, let's just kind of review, because this is going back to an earlier idea that the miracles of coming out of Egypt were miracles that broke nature. Yes. And when miracles break nature, when that light of Ein Sof, that infinite light, comes into the world and breaks nature, it's not as it's not as clear that Hashem controls nature, that Hashem has control over nature.
How did he break it?
He broke it, but that doesn't mean he can control it. It means he can break it, but that doesn't mean he can control it.
You're breaking
Some guy can crash a car.
It is.
A guy who can crash a car doesn't mean he can drive a car. Just because he can crash a car doesn't mean he's a good driver, because he crashed the car.
But except we're talking about the sea splitting, people walking through.
Exactly. So that Hashem can bring a light into the world that completely distorts nature, and nature
Right.
becomes completely incapacitated. Yeah. It does not show Hashem's oneness over nature, just that it can break nature, but not that it can manipulate and control nature.
So are you saying the final redemption will be done within Teva?
Exactly. The final redemption, the miracles of the final redemption will be characterized by those miracles that completely take over nature. Nature will still be there. There will be nature. It will have all of its functions and laws and rules, but it will be driven by God alone. And that will show Hashem Levado, that will show Hashem's himself oneness, that the nature is completely, fully present, but yet is being completely controlled by God. That will show Hashem's complete oneness and hegemony over nature, as opposed to the miracles of the Red Sea and leaving Egypt, where it did not show his complete hegemony over the nature. It showed that he could just break nature, he could just subvert nature, but not that he could control nature.
Oh, but he controlled the water to split, to stay split.
When I take somebody and I kill them, okay, does that mean I have control over them?
No, we're not talking about
No.
that.
So that I shot some guy and he died, that doesn't mean that I have control over him. But when I can wiggle my ears and he, he's hypnotized and he can do these things or whatever, that shows a much greater level of control over this person, right? He's totally there. He can talk, he can walk, he can think, he can do math problems, but yet he will do whatever I say. I just snap my fingers and he does whatever I say. Does that show a greater control over the person? Or if I shoot him and he dies, I shows a greater control over the person? Which shows a greater control over the person?
So
what do you think? What do you think shows a greater control?
Well, based on what
I don't want to force anything. What do you think?
If we hadn't had these several classes together, I'm sure we would all think that the first guy that wiggles his nose and gets all that to happen. However,
That's true.
However, but based on what we've been learning,
No, that's the right answer.
That is the right
Yeah,
answer.
that he's got a control over the guy because the guy's fully there. He's fully there, and yet whenever I say, jump, he says how high. And so that shows a greater control over that person than if I could just knock him out. If I can just knock him out, what control do I have over him? I have no control over him. I have to knock him out.
Okay, you could do that. But when you tell the sea to split...
Leonard, you keep asking the same question over and over again. The sea split, yeah, we did. But
I think that's greater control than over a person to over control over the sea. If you could do that...
But he doesn't take control over the sea. He didn't take control over the sea. He took control over the sea, but not as the sea. The sea had to stop being a sea. Do you understand? Hashem stopped it from being a sea. Water doesn't stand up. Water fills, okay? It doesn't stand up. So Hashem had to break the sea from being the sea in order to do that miracle. But as the sea goes and covers the world, does Hashem have control over it as that? Can he make the ship go through the sea unharmed? I don't know. I only know that Hashem can break the sea. I don't know that when the sea is in its full strength, can Hashem control the sea then?
Made it, I guess. I would think so.
But it doesn't demonstrate his control over the sea as the sea. He can control the sea not as the sea. I can stop it from being a sea, but I can't control it as the sea. That is not indicated by the Kriyas Yamsuf. That's not indicated. I mean, we can extrapolate, but what happened at Kriyas Yamsuf is that Hashem showed that he can dissolve the nature of the sea. but not that he can control the nature of the sea.
Or that he chose not to.
Whatever. But the breaking of nature is not, there's something lacking still in the demonstration of Hashem's total control of nature. You have to break nature. You have to break it. Mechatesa, he can control it when it's still in its nature. Who says that he can control it while it's still in its nature? Maybe he has to break it to control. He has to break it. That's the only way he can control it, by breaking it. The nature as the sea, Hashem can't do anything about that. That's the nature, that's the sea, that's how it works. I can't do anything. Oh, can I break the nature? Oh, I can break the nature. But once the sea is in its nature, I can't do that. That's the sea. Don't talk to me. I can break it from being a sea. Okay, I can break it from being a sea. Just I can shoot the guy. He's no longer a guy. He's done. But when the guy's the guy and he's got his whole mental faculties, he won't listen to me. I can't do anything to him. He won't listen to me. I have to shoot him to get him out of the picture, but he won't listen to me. So which shows a greater control? Is it when I have to shoot the guy to get him out of the way, or when I say, could you please leave, and he listens? Which shows a greater control? When the guy is in his full capacity and he listens. Not that I have to break him in order to get what I want. That shows a certain lack of control. It shows a certain lack of control. I can only break it to have control over it. I can't work with it while it is in its natural state. That's Yetzias Mitzrayim. In its natural state, God did nothing. He broke the natural state in order to indicate his control, and that by breaking the nature of the natural world in order to demonstrate his control, there is a lack of demonstration of his full control over nature. Because in order to control it, he had to break it. So how do I know that he can control it while it still has its full capacity? I can extrapolate that. I can infer that perhaps, but it's not being shown to me. Is everyone on board with this?
Everybody but Lenny is.
You use the word break.
Yeah.
Hashem says to the sea, split, and it splits. He didn't break anything. He just gave it a command because he's Hashem, and Hashem can do that.
Lenny, of course,
Hashem could look at you and say, fly, and next thing you know,
You don't
you've been
think
going
that's
on.
breaking?
That isn't
You don't think
breaking anything.
You don't think that's breaking nature? That's not breaking the laws of nature?
No, he's just...
It's not breaking the laws of nature?
No.
That command
he's
is not breaking
commanding
the
laws of nature.
So you're saying he's making a new law of nature?
Anything.
He's making a new law of nature?
No.
The law of nature was that water doesn't stand.
He's
And
making
he's
an
changing and he's
exception to the rule.
he's making an exception. So he's breaking the law in order to show something. He's breaking the law. Water doesn't do that. You see how water works? This is how water works. That's it. Just like this. That's it. It doesn't stand up. That's
No,
it.
but
It lays
if you
down.
put something in there, the water's going to rise up. How about that? How do
What are
think
you
that
saying,
happens?
Lenny? What are you saying? If I put a rock in the water, that proves that splitting the sea is not breaking
No, but
nature?
that's not breaking the water. That's just...
When I say to the water to levitate,
when
am I breaking nature?
You and I.
Am I breaking the laws of nature if I get this water to levitate? If God gets this water to levitate, is that not breaking the laws of gravity? Is that breaking the laws of gravity?
Well,
Yes, it's breaking the laws of gravity.
who
Water
made the
sinks.
laws of gravity?
Water goes down.
Huh?
God.
Water falls.
Hashem made the laws of gravity.
Yes, and so can he
So
break them?
Hashem could, anytime he wants.
Great.
For a minute
He did
or
it.
for a month.
He did it, and he did it. He broke the laws of nature. Are we on the same page now with that?
Okay,
He
I
broke
don't-
the law of nature.
I hear what you're saying. I
He
just
commanded it.
the
He
word
commanded it.
broke. You know, I don't get the word broke. He controlled
Nullified.
it to do this.
He
controlled
nullified.
it to do this. That's all he controls. He can control anything. He can control this table to go up, flip around, and sit down. But that's not breaking anything. He decided to use this control that he
He's
obviously
nullifying
has
the
since he
normal laws of
created
nature.
the-
He's nullifying the normal laws of nature. He's nullifying them.
No, he just turns the switch on and off.
But I understand. You're saying how he does it. You're saying how he does it. He gives a command. He makes a switch. He
I
does
don't know
something.
how he does that.
Hold
We're
on,
not
hold
that
on.
close.
But you're focused on how. You're focused on how he does it. He makes a command, and he does it through a command. But the what is he doing with his command is what I'm focused on. Not how he does it, but what he is doing. He is nullifying the laws of nature. The law of water
Right.
is this, and he's saying do X,
Right.
not that.
He can nullify any law
That's
of
right.
nature.
But by nullifying the laws of nature, he does not demonstrate his control over nature when it's not nullified its laws.
No, the nullification means changing the regular thing.
Exactly. Changing the regular thing.
Yeah.
But
And then
not that he has total control over when it is the regular thing. Maybe God can only make the water split.
Was Noah's
Yeah, right. He can't make them turn blue or
Noah's flood
uh,
nature within nature or breaking nature?
The flood?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
I'm just trying to get us away from that.
okay. Okay. So that's the question. The question is that why compare or why put in the same place talking about the greatness of the miracles of the final redemption by relating them to the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim, which while they were really great and spectacular, there was something majorly lacking in God's demonstration of the control over nature by the fact that it had to come through breaking the laws of nature, but not through the control of nature as nature was in its full force. Meaning maybe nature in its full force is too strong of an opponent to God. Obviously, it's not
stronger
true.
than God.
Lenny, I know it's not true, but who says that just because he was able to break the laws of nature doesn't mean that as nature that's too strong of an opponent for him? He can't break the law. He can't work in the laws of nature. He has to break it to show you that he's in control. He can't control it while it's still in nature.
You know,
while it's still
so when you hit
Lenny,
a rock in the desert
Lenny,
and a river comes
it's
out.
not shown though. It's not shown. What's shown is that he can break nature, not that he can work with it. That he can break it.
No, I didn't say
Mazel
work.
tov.
I didn't
You
say
can break
work with it.
Oh, I
He
know.
can make it do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
But I
what-
don't see that as breaking. I think it's using powers that when he chooses to use, he can use, and I don't see it as breaking. It's just, okay, you rock. I want you to become a river, bam, and now you got water for the whole, everybody in the desert has water in the middle of nowhere. He didn't break anything. He just created an event that he is capable of doing anything like that.
Lenny,
So
of course God is capable of doing everything. I'm with you on that.
He's
I'm
not
with you on
capable
that.
of doing
I'm with you that God is capable of doing
Anything.
everything, yes.
okay,
But
so-
when he chooses to interact and intervene in the world, and he does that by the laws of nature being upturned, that demonstrates that God is able to intervene through upturning the laws of nature. But it does not demonstrate clearly that when the laws of nature are in their full force, God can intervene through those laws of nature. It's only indicated that he can intervene by breaking the laws of nature, by doing something that totally upends the laws of nature. But it does not indicate that while the laws of nature are still in effect, he can somehow wheel and deal. It seems like God. I'm talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim, and the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim upended the laws of nature and do not clearly indicate that God, when the laws of nature are in their full effect, God can intervene in the same way. It seems like God, in order to come and be God, he's got to come and break the laws of nature. And there's something lacking in God's hegemony over the entire world when he has to come and strong arm nature and his intervention involves nature's laws being completely upended. Like, okay, that's really great for the the marquee. That's really great for the trailer. Okay, to see God upend nature. But hey, what about I need to get to the airport on time, and I don't expect, the sea to split for me to get there. But who says that God can, make sure that my car, can get there, because we're totally in Teva here. And who says that God can make that happen and that the laws of Teva are not too strong? God doesn't work in the laws of nature. Maybe when he intervenes, it's only through breaking the laws of nature. And since I'm not going to be meritorious enough to get a breaking the laws of nature miracle, I can't rely on God to deal with nature qua nature. Do you get that, Lenny? Is that clear?
That, but
okay, so that's it.
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with what?
No, that Hashem can do.
Lenny, I'm not saying Hashem can't.
Doesn't have to.
Lenny, I'm not saying Hashem. Lenny, it's what he did in the Yetzias Mitzrayim. I didn't ask God to do it. I didn't ask God to split the sea. He did it. He split the sea.
Of course,
but splitting
like
the
one of those,
sea,
I think
you think that I'm saying it's hard or easy. I'm not talking about hard or easy. God did something. He could have done anything, right?
Right, he did.
He could have done anything.
And he did do something.
Lenny, you're just being argumentative just for being argumentative. We're not disagreeing on this. He could have done anything, right?
Right.
He could have done anything.
Lenny,
Why did he decide? Why did he decide to do an intervention that involved the laws of nature being upended? Do you agree that he decided to intervene in a way that upended the laws of nature? He didn't do the Maccabees. He didn't do Iran rocket defense. He didn't do that. He did something which completely upended the laws of nature. Mm-hmm. Agree or not? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did that. Right. He did that kind of miracle. He did that kind of miracle. Fine. So, but when you do that kind of miracle, you leave a little room for doubt, Lenny. You leave a little room for doubt. You may not feel that doubt. You may not feel that. But I'm telling you that room is left. That room is left. You may not feel, you may not be in that room. You've not gone into that room. But I'll tell you that room exists. And you can walk into that room with me, or you cannot walk into that room. That's your choice. But the room exists that leaves a doubt that, you know what? Maybe when God intervenes, that's what he can do. He breaks the law. He breaks the laws of nature. His intervention... Yeah, he made it.
He makes the laws.
He makes the laws of nature, and he made it in a way that his intervention is only by breaking the laws. Maybe he made the laws of nature so much that he can't intervene in the laws of nature. He has to break the laws of nature in order to be... Lenny, I know it's not going to be true at the end of the story, but at this moment... when the Kriyas Yam Suf happened, at that point, maybe I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, God intervenes here. Maybe the only way God intervenes is when is to break the laws of nature. But it could be that the laws of nature, Hashem set it up in a way, that Hashem set up the laws of nature in a way that the only way he can intervene is to break those laws of nature. But that he cannot intervene through using the laws of nature. Maybe he set up the laws of nature so strong and so, it's not like a rock that God can't move. God can move the rock. He has to break the rock to move it. Maybe he has to break the rock to move it. That's how God set up the rules, that he has to break the rock to move it. He creates a rock he can't move, whatever that stupid question is. But that God created the laws of nature so strong, so formidable, that in order to intervene in the world, he has to break nature. Could that be, Lenny, that he created nature the laws of nature so formidably, which is an act of God, nature. But he put those rules in and set that divine order of nature so strongly that in order to intervene in the world, he has to break nature. Could that be, Lenny? Could that be that God set up the world that way, that his only way to intervene in nature is to break nature? Could he have set up the world that way, yes or no?
Sure. Absolutely.
And so after Kriyas Yam Suf, do I have any way of knowing that God set up the world this way or that way? No, I don't know. because the only thing he's done is broke nature. So how do I know that God has not set up nature in a way that the only way he can intervene is just by breaking nature, and that he can't also control nature? I don't know. I don't know at that point, Lenny. I don't know at that point because he's only broken it. He hasn't shown me that he can work through it too. Nature is nature, and God comes in and says, hey guys, I'm here, and I'm breaking nature. Oh, okay.
And
So
then he put it back together,
maybe that's how God intervenes. He set up nature. We all know nature is very strong. And now God comes and he shows us to the world, hello, I'm God. And what does he do? He has to break nature. Okay. You have to break nature? Okay. It's very dramatic. It's very dramatic. You have all of our attention. You have all of our attention. But yet, at the end of the show, I am left with the question. I wonder if for all time, in order for God to intervene in nature, in the history of the world, he has to upend the laws of nature in order to do so. Do I have an answer to that question once the sea returned to its normal state? Do I have an answer to that question? I don't. I don't, Lenny. You don't either. You don't have an answer to that question because I didn't see God intervene in any other way. So how do I know how God set the world up? He can do whatever he wants, but how do I know how he did it? How did he set up the world? So after the Yetzias Mitzrayim, I am left not knowing if God can intervene in nature while nature's laws are still in effect, or in order to intervene, he has to break the laws of nature. Correct? I don't know. And so that is why the Rebbe is saying, why compare it to Yetzias Mitzrayim? The miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim were left with that big question mark. The question mark is not a question of lack of faith in God's power. It's a question of how God made the world. You could just say it like that. It's a philosophical question. How does God interact with nature and the world? And after Yam Suf, it's only clear to me that God can break nature. I don't yet know that God has set it up in a way that he can also take control of nature as nature. I don't know.
We've been saying the same thing for half an hour now. Can we move on?
Yeah. Use your idea to record, okay?
So he can make it, but he can't control it.
I don't know if you want your wife to listen to this. She's going to get frustrated.
So you're saying that God is limited.
You're saying the exact opposite of that.
But he hasn't had to break anything.
But he did. Lenny, we're talking about what happened.
He changed things.
Lenny.
I like the word change.
Okay,
like
so he had to change nature. He had to change nature.
They both really
So-
the same
so-
momentarily.
Just over and over again.
Just different words.
And then he put it back.
And over and
And then he
over
put it back.
again.
But so the only evidence I have of God intervening in the history is by him changing nature. But how do I know that God can actually work with nature? I just see him changing nature, but I don't see him working with nature. I see him changing nature. I use the word upended. Okay, I started using the word upended because you don't like bricks, so I use upended. But you want to say change. So he changed the laws of nature. He changed the laws of nature. But it's not that he made a new law. It's that he changed it. It's the law of nature is not changed. The law of nature is the same. He upended that law. Yes, he changed something, but he upended the law that water should fall, and he changed it. Okay? And so for that moment. So the question is, how does God intervene in history? By changing nature or by working with nature? And so far, the only evidence I have from Yetzias Mitzrayim is that he changes nature, but he does not opt to work with nature. He has to change nature to intervene, but not that he can manipulate nature itself. He can work with nature as the nature is working. He has to totally change it. Okay? So that's what the final redemption will be. The final redemption will be characterized by the miracles of God's working in nature and therefore indicating Hashem's even greater power over nature that his intervention doesn't include just the ability to break or change or upend the laws of nature, but that God can actually completely control the laws of nature, and within the laws of nature, without changing the science, he can control the outcome of nature 100%. And that was something that wasn't clear before at Yam Suf. That was not clear. Lenny,
So the
as
Rebbe
much
is-
as you want to say whatever, it's not clear that at Yam Suf he could do the other thing. It's just not yet clear. You have your ideas of God, and so it's clear to you aside from that. But if we just look at Yam Suf, we just look at Yetzias Mitzrayim, we don't have any evidence that Hashem would do such a thing or interacts in the world in that way, only in this way, only in the changing and breaking, upending nature. We don't see that Hashem's control extends even through using nature in its full capacity without having to change or upend or break anything in laws of nature.
So the Rebbe's question is, why are we relating the final redemption to leaving Egypt?
You're right,
What-
because the miracles in Egypt
We're
were
working it.
so
Yeah, I got it.
there was a lack. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So would he prefer not to make an analogy to leaving Egypt at all, and just tell us what he thinks that the final redemption should be? I mean, if we don't use Yom Suf, what can we use?
Well, you could just say, like, unlike the miracles of Egypt, the miracles of the
Okay,
final
that
redemption
works
will
for
be
me.
greater,
Good.
right? But
And
he's
some of the miracles
the
were
verse,
small and some were huge.
but the verse is, it's not about small and big miracles. We're not talking about the scale of the miracles. We're talking about how if the miracle has to upend the laws of nature, has to change the laws of nature, or work with the laws of nature. That's big and small. Small is that he changes the laws of nature. Big is that he works with the laws of nature and still makes miracles.
Big is
So Lenny, I just said what big is. Big is when nature stays nature and Hashem can control it. Small is when Hashem has to break nature. Hashem not has to, but does break nature, upends, changes the laws of nature, majorly futzes with the laws of nature. That is a small miracle. And so the Rebbe's question is, why compare the final redemption, which is big miracles, to the Yetzias Mitzrayim, which are relatively small miracles, small in that they still live a great space of doubt in my mind how Hashem works and his
answer
power
the
over
question,
nature.
the Rebbe's question is, he showed in many areas big miracles, little miracles, but things that nobody could do but him, obviously. And like with the sea, he put it all back. During the flood, when the whole planet pretty much was underwater,
You should get him some cookies.
you know,
and milk,
that's-
and get him like a cookie and an iced tea or something. That's what you need. Right?
A pipe with him.
Oh, he wants a pie. We got it. Everybody got it. We'll tell you later.
yeah,
You got it.
you can't beat that.
I'm going to tell you after.
Okay.
But he
So-
put it back because now we're here.
He put it back. And so putting it back what? Because he put it back.
Well,
Does that show that he can work with the laws of nature? No, Lenny, it still doesn't. It still doesn't because he put it back. Because he put it back.
well, if you can put it back, it means you can take it apart.
You can take it apart. He took it apart. What do you mean? He shows me he can take it apart. He took it apart. Did he put it back?
Yeah.
But he still doesn't show that he can work with using the laws of nature. Okay. It doesn't, Lenny. You can think about it, but it doesn't. Okay?
If we didn't
I don't
put
want to talk
back-
about it. I don't want to discuss it anymore.
Would agree.
Putting it back doesn't do it. Putting it back doesn't do it.
Okay.
Okay. So what is it? So what is the comparison? Why link it to that? Even though the nisim that by Yetzias Mitzrayim were above nature, broke nature, were beyond nature, the small miracles. We're talking about the final redemption where the miracles will be totally clothed in nature, taking control of nature. So what's the comparison? Because the opening of the faucet happened with Yetzias Mitzrayim. The opening of the faucet of the energy that contained in it all of the Geulas, including the final Geula, was opened with Yetzias Mitzrayim. That when Yetzias Mitzrayim happened, this Erenu Beneflos, what's happening at the final redemption, took place. What happened at the final, what will happen at the final redemption, took place during Yetzias Mitzrayim, came down during Yetzias Mitzrayim, but it came down in a hidden way. It was hidden in Yetzias Mitzrayim. It wasn't revealed. But everything that will happen in the final Geula happened through the process, came down, was opened up and brought into the world, whether in potential or whatever, came into the world through Yetzias Mitzrayim. So that's the answer, that's the beginning of the answer to why does it say, just like in the days of Mitzrayim, I'll show you Niflos. Because everything that will happen in every Geula, but even in the final Geula, everything that will happen happened at Yetzias Mitzrayim. It did happen. What?
We didn't notice.
We didn't notice it. We didn't notice it. It didn't come down in a revealed way. It will come down in a revealed way when it comes in a revealed way at the final redemption.
And
but
this is known through Ruach HaKodesh. How would one know that during Yetzias Mitzrayim?
Because it says Yemei Tzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim Erenu Beneflos. Why else would it put the two together? It's putting the two together to indicate this truth that the opening of the faucet, that the energy of all of the Geulas came through Yetzias Mitzrayim, came down in Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Is that a pasuk of the Rebbe?
It's a pasuk in Mika. And that's what the Rebbe is answering. Why would it put the two together? They're on totally different levels. Because at Yetzias Mitzrayim, it all started. It all came down. The whole potential for the final Geula and all the Geulas came down in Yetzias Mitzrayim. The world was not prepared at that point to receive the miracles in a way that we could see it in a way that we will see. He'll show it to us at the final redemption. He'll show it to us. That's the chiddush of Erenu Beneflos. I will show you at the final redemption what happened at Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim, everything came. Everything happened at Yetzias Mitzrayim. It opened up everything. But I'm not going to show you how it's all opened up until the final redemption. It all came down Yetzias Mitzrayim, but it's not going to be revealed what it was until the end.
You say we didn't have the eyes to see it?
We definitely not. But not only did we not have the eyes to see it, nature did not have was not a vessel to receive it in a way that it was revealed. And so it came down in it was definitely show-stopping, but it had to break the laws of nature. It nullified the laws of nature. And because nature wasn't at that place that could have that, it could show it. It couldn't show it. It couldn't show it. So the light that came down at that time was the light. It contained all of the Geulas. And the final Geula, Yetzias Mitzrayim, it all contained that there. But it wasn't there. The world was not at a state that was capable of being able to see the full effect of Hashem's power. And therefore, it broke nature, which is indicative of a lesser control, because it had to break it, it had to change it. But at the final redemption, Hashem will show us, Erenu Beneflos, I will show you how all of it is revealed. I'm going to reveal it to you how and that is what we're talking about with the nature of nature changing, that that nature will be the perfect vessel for this light. Okay? So I know we kind of got hung up on a point, but it's an important point. It's an important point. And that's why I kind of stayed with it to the chagrin of some. But this is a critical point to understand the difference. But that really, even in that, the Yetzias Mitzrayim, we're shifting our focus. The Yetzias Mitzrayim, on one hand, was I don't want to say a shvach, because it was obviously Yetzias Mitzrayim, but relative to the final redemption, it wasn't what it's all cracked up to be. The final redemption will really show Hashem's complete.
Good question.
Yeah.
There's another way of saying it. The final redemption will look, our lives are going to look like they normally looked. It's not going to be different. The miracles are going to show through our day-to-day lives, according to what you're saying and the Rebbe's saying. In our normal lives, we're going to see these miracles come out. And our lives are going to look like, I think Chassidic Hashem and showing how he's running our normal life. Exactly.
We're gonna talk about next week. Basically that it's what is the avoda? What is our avoda during this time? Our avodas Elokim, which is we're just like leather. He's going to talk about this. We'll get to it next week. Is that just like leather has to be worked before it can be made into a shoe. It's very hard. It has to be really worked and tanned and manipulated to get soft. Okay? That's ibud, that's tanning. Ibud is the same shorish as oved, to work, the work of Hashem, the work of the divine service. And it's working nature, that our nature is very tough. It's very tough. And it's our working and softening, and we have to get nature soft so it can, just like leather, it can start to bend. And so when nature is able to bend that way and be flexible, now when the light of Hashem can come in, nature can now be flexible to receive it, and it doesn't have to break. Okay, like before you, let's say you have something that's very hard that can soften, and so if the wind came and it breaks the tree, right? Because the strong wind, it breaks the tree. But if it was a reed, then it can bend, and then you can so that's what our work in this world, we'll talk about it next week, is. So at Yetzias Mitzrayim, the point is Yetzias Mitzrayim, nature and us and the whole world was not at a place that it could receive the light in a way that wouldn't break it. It broke it. But that through the process of history and our working through Torah and mitzvahs and avodas Hashem, we work on our nature, and by working on our nature, we work on nature in general. So that when Hashem's light, when the Yetzias Mitzrayim of the final redemption, when the final redemption comes and the light that was revealed in Yetzias Mitzrayim is revealed, nature will then be in a place where it can hold it, and it won't break. And then God's rule and control over even the minuscule nature, the laws of nature, and working and all of that, his puppet mastery over every single nuance in nature, not just being able to break nature, but to orchestrate even the most subtle instruments in nature.
It's kind of like,
that he can play every single instrument will show his total control over nature.
Yeah, you said the punchline. I was going to say, how many times have people said, well, where was Hashem, and where was Hashem, and where was Hashem? And with what we're saying now is like, there he is.
Yeah, we're going to see it in a major way. See it in a major way, but it's again, it's going to be in a major way, but not necessarily. But nothing's going to break. Nothing has to break. That our nature will now become a fitting vessel for divine light and nature will be a vehicle. It won't have to be broken, and God and as we said, as we keep talking about it, it keeps going back this Kabbalah's ol, that accepting the yoke of heaven, doing things even though your nature doesn't want you to do it. Right? Doing God's will, even though our nature wants us to do something else. Being happy like forcing ourselves to smile even though we want to be angry. That is softening the nature. That's work in the nature. And so by us doing that, there's a certain amount of that we have to do on ourselves that then permeates the whole nature of itself. And then that light then nature can be that amazing vessel for that light and Hashem's control. So I have to work on that leather. I got to work on that leather inside of me. Got to work on teva, on nature. Okay, and so that is. But just to go back to the point that we've said 1,000 times is that Yetzias Mitzrayim, not 1,000 times. The Yetzias Mitzrayim was the opening. It was the opening. So all of the Gula, all of the light, all of everything that will finally come and be in a revealed way came down in a hidden way in Yetzias Mitzrayim, and we'll discuss that process because there's another splitting. There was the splitting of the river also. Splitting of the river. You just think there's a splitting of the sea. Well, there's a splitting of the river also.
I remember that.
You're splitting of the river? You know the splitting of the river? So we'll discuss the splitting of the river next week.
How would we define something, for instance, like the burning bush or something? Is that like within nature?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No. Basically, the world, went through a process. The first, from the time of the Beis Hamikdash until the end of the Beis Hamikdash, it was basically in Hashem controlling nature. This Yehuda Ilah, that Hashem is not controlling nature, but kind of breaking nature, intervening in nature by breaking the laws.
Going up straight with the wind blowing.
Yeah, just miracles that nature just kind of put aside, disregarded the laws of nature, and we kind of we saw that. That's what we talked about last week. We saw that, and we were mushba. We were influenced by that. And so again, that's not Hashem. That's not showing Hashem can control us as us. That just shows that Hashem can put us in a trance.
And all of the revealed miracles that happened in the Beis Hamikdash also?
Yeah, it's all that. I mean, things shifted. There was the Maccabees, and then in the time of Gullus, in the time of exile, these last 2,000 years, the whole mahalach, the whole way that Hashem is dealing with the world is now giving us the opportunity to say, okay, Hashem's taking a big step back, and here's nature, and you have to deal with nature, but know that I'm hidden in nature, that if you choose to be connected to me, you will see me working, and nature doesn't have any effect on you. Okay? And that's what we do, Torah and mitzvahs. That's Kabbalah's Ol. Kabbalah's Ol is that in my nature, I have everything going on, but that I do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm connected to Hashem. I don't put my trust in anything else or anybody else. I don't put my trust in anything else. And Hashem, I see that Hashem works through the nature. Hashem works through the nature. Okay? We actually went to the oil, just tell you a quick